I never thought I'd see the day when the person who was supposed to protect my future would become the biggest obstacle in my life. But here I am, staring at a situation that feels more like a trap than a family arrangement. My uncle became the guardian of my inheritance when I was barely out of high school, and somehow, over the years, it's like he rewrote the rules without ever asking me. And the worst part, everyone acts like it's normal. It all started when my parents passed away unexpectedly. I was 21, just starting college, and suddenly faced with more adult decisions than I knew what to do with. My uncle, who had always been the responsible one, was appointed as the legal guardian of my inheritance until I turned 25. At first, I thought it made sense. I didn't feel ready to manage that kind of money anyway, and my parents had trusted him, but almost immediately, little things started to feel off. He would borrow money from the account for what he called family emergencies and temporary investments, and when I asked about it later, he'd shrug it off with a smile and say, "You're still young. You'll understand one day." That phrase, it haunted me. It was never about guidance. It was about control. I remember the first time I realized it was more than just casual borrowing. I had saved up for a summer internship abroad, something I had planned for months. When I tried to access my funds, there was a discrepancy. He told me some of it had to go to taxes and fees, even though I knew I had handled that part myself. When I questioned him, he leaned back and said, "Look, you're still learning. I'm just helping you avoid mistakes." The tone was soft, almost caring. But inside, I felt my agency slipping away. Over time, his control became more subtle but more insidious. Any attempt I made to discuss spending, investing, or even just planning for my future was met with excuses, delays, or outright dismissal. He would tell me stories of my parents' wishes, emphasizing things they supposedly wanted for my own good. But when I dug into paperwork, I found inconsistencies. It became clear. My uncle was rewriting the narrative to suit himself. And it wasn't just about money. The emotional manipulation was constant. He'd frame decisions as if I were too immature or irresponsible to make them. Every time I tried to assert myself, he would nod with that knowing smile and say, "You'll see. One day, you'll thank me." I'd leave the conversation feeling frustrated and powerless, as if my own life was being orchestrated by someone else. What really opened my eyes was a moment that seemed trivial at first. I wanted to buy a laptop for school, something modest. But when I asked for access to the funds, he suggested waiting. "Let's not rush into it," he said. "Remember, you're still learning how to manage money responsibly." A few weeks later, he used the same account to pay for a vacation with his friends. Just like that. No permission, no consultation. That's when I realized this wasn't about care or guidance. It was about control. It got worse. He started delegating responsibilities to me, while subtly taking credit for decisions he made. For example, I would handle budgeting for household bills, investments, and small purchases. But when any outcome was favorable, he would take full credit. And if something went wrong, even slightly, he would blame me, reminding me that I wasn't ready to handle real responsibilities. It was a clever cycle of manipulation that left me doubting myself. The psychological impact was huge. I found myself second-guessing every decision, afraid to touch anything financial without his approval. Friends would suggest opening my own account or seeking independent advice, but every time I brought it up, he would subtly guilt-trip me. "You don't want to cause family tension, do you?" He made me feel like standing up for myself was selfish, even disrespectful. And because everyone else in the family saw him as the responsible one, I had no allies. I started keeping records, secretly, bank statements, emails, and receipts. The more I documented, the more patterns emerged. It wasn't just the occasional borrowing. It was a consistent strategy of asserting authority while erasing my autonomy. He made me doubt my judgment at every turn, while simultaneously presenting himself as the only trustworthy steward of my inheritance. Then came a turning point. I turned 24, a year away from gaining full control. By then, I had started researching financial rights, guardianship laws, and ways to regain control. It was overwhelming at first, because I had to navigate not only the legal side, but also the emotional manipulation that had been drilled into me for years. But the more I learned, the more empowered I felt. I realized that this wasn't just about money, it was about reclaiming my independence and my life. One day, I confronted him. I laid out the discrepancies, the temporary loans, and the moments of subtle control. I expected resistance, perhaps even anger, but what I got was something chillingly calm. He smiled and said, "You'll understand one day why I did this." The audacity of that statement hit me like a punch. He wasn't going to apologize. He had no intention of acknowledging what he had done. That's when I realized that the only person who could reclaim my inheritance and my independence was me. I started the process of gaining control methodically. I sought advice from financial advisors, legal counsel, and even therapists to handle the emotional fallout. It took months, but slowly, I began to untangle the web he had woven. I learned to distinguish between legitimate guidance and manipulation. I learned to trust my own judgment again, and I learned that standing up for myself wasn't disrespectful, it was necessary. Looking back, the experience taught me a lot about family dynamics and power. Sometimes, people we trust can exploit that trust, not with malice or criminal intent, but with subtle manipulation that erodes autonomy. And the worst part is, it can feel completely normal if no one else calls it out. But once you see the pattern, it's impossible to ignore. Today, I have full control over my inheritance, and the lessons extend far beyond finances. I've learned to set boundaries, recognize manipulation, and assert my independence even in the most emotionally charged situations. My uncle is still part of my life, but the dynamic has changed. I no longer let someone else rewrite my story, and I no longer accept control disguised as guidance. So, if you ever find yourself in a situation where someone you trust is overstepping, remember, documenting, questioning, and seeking advice isn't selfish, it's survival. And reclaiming your autonomy isn't just about money or possessions. It's about taking back your life. It wasn't easy, and it won't be easy for everyone, but it is possible. And once you take that first step, you realize just how much strength you had all along.